Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Dogs Do Speak with myself, Samantha Welland, and the fabulous Colin Spence. Today, we have a lovely guest who some of you might recognize because she's all over social media and TikTok, the wonderful Elodie Lawrence. Hi, Els.
Hi.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about you, about what you do, and a little bit about your journey of how you got into the dog world?
Yeah, so I'm Elodie, but a lot of people will know me as Els. My business is called Els K9 Coaching, if you can see it. And yeah, so I'm a dog trainer and studying behaviorist. So at the moment, I'm more focused on one-to-ones and classes. So we have puppy class and then slightly more advanced class where we kind of try different fun activities like trick training, scent work, agility, and then some other kind of fun challenges. Like we recently played musical chairs, which was very fun. And then one-to-ones can be for a lot of different things. So I have a couple assistance dog clients. So I want to sort of start building my assistance dog reputation, working with different kind of disabilities and handlers. And then also doing things like working with dogs with reactivity, nervous dogs. I've had a couple kind of rescue dogs and puppies. I also do one-to-one as well, if the client sort of prefers that sort of method. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I do.
It sounds fab. I don't even know how you've got time for all of that. You've got so much going on there. It's amazing. So tell us a bit about how you kind of got into the dog world. What made you want to
Yeah,
try
so
dogs?
I actually didn't start off working with dogs. I've always been obsessed with animals as far as I can remember and begged for literally any pet I could possibly have. And I started at a place called the Arc Centre, which is an animal education centre for children starting all the way from 2 years old to 18 years old. So I started, I think I was about 15, 16, and I did a veterinary class where we learned how to administer medication and then a training class. So that was actually my first sort of experience learning about quadrants. So it was kind of good that I had my head around that a bit before I started dog training. And I worked with capybaras, skunks, sugar gliders, meerkats, and foxes. So I had kind of a basic understanding of positive reinforcement and clicker training and things like that. And that was super, super fun. And then I started volunteering there as well on Saturday. And then from there, I had my own first own dog. So I had a French bulldog called Peggy, who was from quite a bad situation. At the time, we didn't really know that getting her from there was not rescuing, but we felt we needed to take her from that situation. And so I learned a lot from her and really started realizing she needed help. Um, and yeah, so I started looking for jobs with dogs, learning more about dogs. I was then at a doggy daycare for a couple years where I could really see that a lot of these dogs needed training. And then unfortunately, that's sort of where I fell into the trap of balance training, using things like slip leads, rock collars, because that's kind of what I saw on TikTok being very young. I was all on social media and unfortunately fell into that. But eventually decided to do a course, and I was very sort of thinking I would stick to my slip leads are the best mentality, but the course very much changed my mind. And with amazing mentors like Colin, I was shown the proper way and how that shutting down a dog is not training a dog. And that's where I sort of then started my business once I passed. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I'd love to see some videos of. Have you got any old videos of you training the
I
capybaras?
think I have one video with the skunk, but I don't have any with the cappies. I must have done at the time, but where on earth they've gone, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
think
need
I
to
have
find those.
some pictures though, so maybe I can find those. And I did also do a week placement at Whipsnade Zoo, which is the UK's largest zoo. It's an absolutely fantastic place. If you ever have the chance to go, definitely go. But we got to go behind the scenes, and so I watched chimpanzees being trained, and I watched sun bears being trained. And again, fascinating, because they're so different to dogs. But again, the positive reinforcement aspect is all the same, no matter what species you're working with. And what I loved as well is that the chimpanzees had like these squirt bottles with sugar-free orange squash, and that's what they got as their reward. They squirted into their mouth. It was so cute. It was really cool.
So all those places that you went to and did like work experience in, were they all using like positive reinforcement, or what way were they doing their training?
Yeah, 100%. All positive. And what's unique about working with other species is that there's not as much room for error because they don't understand us humans the way dogs do, because obviously they weren't domesticated alongside us. So Yeah, so you have to be really kind of specific with how you communicate. You're not using loads of different words. It's literally like one word, you wait for them to do the action, mark and reward. So you can't be doing this all like, oh, sit down, oh, well done, good boy, because they'll just get confused. So you can really then start to see how it works much better even when you're with dogs. So yeah, it's definitely helped me a lot with my learning.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that it covers everything. So it shows that it's not just people being soft or too easy, woke, as we sometimes get called, with your dogs, but it works for, like you said, with wild animals, with animals that aren't
Yeah.
domesticated. I think that's
Hmm.
fab. So what made you change from, you said you kind of got dragged in through social media into the whole slip lead training, that side of stuff. What was it? What was your sort of light bulb moment where you changed to positive training?
I think it was just doing the coaching calls with the mentors and them really explaining it and me starting to go, all the things they were saying is why it works, but not in a good way. I could relate to, I could see that in the dogs, and I just didn't have the knowledge to see that yet. So the couple dogs that I would solo walk for the doggy daycare because they were a bit more challenging and didn't really fit with the group, I sort of see, oh, okay, yeah, they don't like putting it on. They give me a hard time. They are shut down. They are stiff, and I could start seeing all of that in them, but didn't know what it meant before I did the course. So now I can see that, and I would never go back. And I feel like so bad. And I will reassure you that those dogs now are on harnesses and walking nicely because I made sure to go back and be like, because one of them, it was a good friend of mine, and I'm still good friends with her, and it was her dog that was like my first kind of project dog. He's sort of in my logo. It's supposed to look a bit like a Vizsla. Oh, I'm using the wrong way. There he is. So that's Marley, and Marley was adolescent Vizsla, crazy dog as they are. Lovely, love is sweet and everything ever, but pulled like a train, was obsessed with other dogs. So yeah, I thought this grot collar was working because he was stopped pulling, he was by my side, he was doing so great. But then I started to see that that's not what was happening. He wasn't actually learning anything. He was just couldn't pull physically.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's one of those, you don't know what you don't know. You didn't
Mm,
have that
yeah.
knowledge there, so you were doing the best with what you had. And obviously now as you've gone on, you've learned more. And
Hmm.
I think that's a really nice thing to hear people saying that, oh, I haven't, I don't know everything, but this is the best of my knowledge at that time. And now I know more,
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's nice to hear.
Mm.
And so you mentioned a little bit about sort of assistance dogs and wanting to expand a little bit more on that side. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I'm actually autistic, ADHD, and I have something called FND, which stands for functional neurological disorder. So when it was kind of at its worst, I was having seizures up to sort of 4 times a day. And as you can imagine, that's quite tricky to deal with. And NHS waiting lists were crazy. We won't get into that. But so I was like, well, what am I going to do? And my dog Lola, she was very attached to me. She would already sort of had the instinct to come comfort me. So I started teaching her to be an assistance dog. So she was doing alerts but then also equally practicing things like loose lead walking, sit stays, all the kind of things they would need for public access. So I sort of getting into it from that. I made a huge group of friends online who have assistance dogs, one of which comes and shadows my classes, and she's lovely. So kind of getting involved in the community and finding other people with the same conditions as me. And yeah, I just sort of see how it can massively impact somebody's life and how wonderful it is to have a dog that is able to help you. I then obviously made friends with Kate, who's got her assistance dog Sam. So I've spoken to her about it, and I did the specialist course as well. Lola, unfortunately, was diagnosed with hip dysplasia, so she's no longer my assistance dog, and she never really did get to the stage where we were going out in public, but she still hugely helps me at home. I kind of call her like my at-home assistance dog, because she still will alert if I need her to, and she'll still lie on me, if I want her to. So yeah, she still has it, but it's just really fun. And then even when I was doing trick training classes, although none of those dogs were learning to be an assistance dog, a lot of those skills are transferable. So you can still teach assistance dog tasks to pet dogs, and it's super fun and helpful.
I love that. What type of tasks were you teaching in your class that you think would be transferable for assistance dogs?
Yeah, so things like go round, where you teach them to go round your legs in a circle, can be used for like crowd control. If you're somebody who's maybe autistic, doesn't like people getting in your space, you can do that. Things like pause up can be transferred into teaching them to push buttons for like automatic doors if you're a wheelchair user. trying to think of different examples now. But yeah, lots of different things that you can use. I mean, we can teach retrieves, which we would do for gun dogs, but that can then be turned into fetching medication or grabbing a water bottle, things like that. So, which is one of the things that I'm doing with the golden retriever that I'm working with at the moment. So yeah, it's there's so many things you can teach them really, and it's just good fun. It's really good mental stimulation for them as well, and they enjoy doing it. So it's not like you don't have to feel guilty that you've got an assistant dog that's doing your work for you because they love doing it.
And it sounds like it probably builds a really nice bond as well between
Oh,
the
massively, yeah.
guardian and the dog, because they're sort of working as a team, aren't they? So it sounds.
Mm.
I was just going to say, Els, yeah, if you could teach my Bailey how to mop up and do the
Yeah, that's
hoovering,
great.
I'd be very happy.
Yeah, that would be pretty
If you
awesome.
could teach my kids to do that, that'd
I
be
got Lola to
fab.
learn to pick up my socks because my mum used to always complain that I leave socks on the floor.
Yeah, maybe that is what I need. Maybe I need to train one of the dogs to do it, and then I wouldn't be constantly asking kids to bring their washing down to the
Yeah.
wash basket. It's a good idea. Maybe you could advertise that way for parents to come
Yeah,
in and
honestly,
train their
that's actually
dogs.
not a bad idea. I love that.
So then they can go, if you're sick of your teenagers not tidying up, I can help you train your dog to tidy their
Yeah,
bedrooms.
I think if any advert starts with "if you're sick of your teenager," would get a lot of interest.
Should have kept that one for myself. No, it sounds really good. And I love the variety. What do you think is out of everything that you've said, what is sort of your favorite thing to do?
It's so hard. So many people ask me this, and so many people ask what's my niche, and it's like so hard to pick just one because I really do love doing it all. I think my puppy classes are my favorite thing to do. Like out of the week, I look forward to that the most. Because I mean, who doesn't love puppies? But also just watching them learn, watching them think. Also, a lot of my puppy clients are new owners, so watching them go like, "Wow, this dog is actually really clever," is really fun. And also setting them up for success and not being irresponsible dog owners. The joy that I get that I'm like, at least this group of four are going to go into the world and not have their dog run up to my reactive dogs that I'm working with is like, yes, best feeling ever. But I do also love working with reactivity and I love working with assistance dogs. I don't think I could pick one, honestly.
No, I love that. Colin was laughing when you said who doesn't like to work with puppies, because the last couple of podcasts, everybody has said, who doesn't like to work with puppies? And I'm like, me.
I know, I know.
I
I
love
don't get it. I
puppies.
don't
I
get
love
it.
puppies. I love nothing more than, puppy breaths, playing with puppies. I love them. But training puppies, I think it's probably for me, it's like working with toddlers. And I'm like, I love kids. Kids are great, but I couldn't work with them. I want, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm sending them all your way. I'm like, here you
Fair
go.
enough. I'll take them all. Yes.
Puppies are what I suppose I live for, that puppy breath, that soft fur, that feeling of that, if I don't help them and protect and advocate for them, they could fall into the wrong hands. I just adore working with pups
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. So if it's a rescue puppy, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I mean, I love it. And if it's another puppy, I love them. I do love them. And if any of my old clients look at this and they see me sit and I've taught their puppies, I did love your puppy. I'd just like to clarify. I did enjoy working with them. It's just not what gets, whereas like Els, your whole face lit up when you were talking about it. You're like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh yeah, no, puppies.
Yeah. But then like you have your thing with the rescue dogs, whereas I find rescue dogs a little not intimidating to work with, but they're not my favorite to work with is because I don't feel like I have as much knowledge, so rather send them your way because they're so different to work with. And I have worked with a few, but they are um much more unique in their characteristics and their behavior that people like you that work with them are awesome. So it's perfect. And I feel like it's important to have lots of people that you know that have different specialties. I mean, I have a little kind of networking group that I set up, which is a few people in my area and we all do different things. So it's handy to chuck them off to different people so you know that your client is working with the best of the best in that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got similar in my area where we have, some trainers that are, like you were saying, some do the assistance dog or trick training or agility, and some do loose lead, and some do puppies, and some, so and it is like you said, and I think networking is a huge part of this, this world, and it should be something
Mm.
that we kind of work together a little bit more. So I like that side of it for 100%. Um, so obviously we were talking, you mentioned a little bit about your previous dog, Peggy.
Yeah.
Obviously we're friends, so I know a little bit more about that. But I know that one of your things that I absolutely love with you is that you are very in tune with dogs, and you will pick up on like signs of pain and that side of things. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you want to tell us about Peggy's story and why you're so
Yeah.
invested in that side?
Of course, yeah. So Peggy came from a breeder who was breeding her. So she had had 40 puppies, eight of which didn't make it, but they still bred again the next time. So it was the third litter where they didn't survive. And yeah, she was in an awful way. It wasn't a great situation. There was still puppies there when we picked her up, and we were just like, we just take her, we'll just take her off your hands. And we didn't even know she was had a white chest because she was that dirty. So she probably never had a bath before. She told me she'd never needed to go to the vets before. There was nothing there. Anyway, a few months into having her, she can't walk. Like pretty much carrying her up and down the stairs, even picking her up. She's yelping, and like literally a week before she was running around in the park chasing birds. So we were like, what is going on? So she has x-rays at the vets, and she's got hip dysplasia, she's got osteoarthritis, and she already had a heart murmur. So she would need a double hip replacement, but obviously that's a very expensive surgery. It's 6 months of crate rest. This dog's never been in a crate before. She's 3.5 years old. And because she has a heart murmur and she's a flat-faced breed, the likelihood of surviving surgery is very low. So unfortunately, she ended up being put down. So we only had this dog for 9 months and we lost her. So it was very heartbreaking. It was awful to see her in that way. And it was crazy to me that there was no signs before that, I thought.
Yeah.
So now looking back, I can see that there was a lot of things that I hadn't picked up on that were signs of hip dysplasia. So when we had our second dog, Lola, and she started showing some of those signs, we were then referred to physio because Lola can't go under sedation for x-rays, and she also has hip dysplasia. But luckily, because we caught it much earlier, much milder before that whole not being able to walk stage, we're able to treat it and she's doing well. So now having two dogs with hip dysplasia in my experience, I've become very keen at noticing the signs, things like hips swaying, bunny hopping, stiff movement in their gait, stretching excessively, lying down, like we call it like spatchcock, where their kind of legs are to the side at the back, and just lots of subtle signs, and also behavior change. So Peggy was reactive, now realized because she was in pain. And when Lola was at the worst of it, where we were just starting to notice it, she also was starting to be reactive when she'd never been reactive before in her life. And in fact, she used to come to the daycare with me when we worked at the daycare. She goes on group walks with my mum. She loves dogs, like she's always around dogs. But all of a sudden, she's barking at them uncontrollably, and like literally nothing I can do is getting her attention back because she was in pain and she feels she needs to protect herself. So yeah, that was another huge sign. So yeah, she's doing all the physio and everything. But now it's been like three of my clients that I've also sort of diagnosed, but like sent to the vets, and the vets I've been right, and the dog has hip dysplasia. So I've become very keen on educating the owners, but also not making them feel bad that they didn't notice, because I explain I didn't notice the first time around with my dog, because why would you? Why would you know the signs? Because there's just not enough education out there. And even a lot of vets will say
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong. I had a client who had first two vets say, the dog's knees may be a bit loose, referred to a surgeon. The dog's had knee surgery and is now recovering, and he goes to my physio to build his strength again, and he's doing well. But it's crazy that the first vet thought, no, he's all right. And actually, the first vet even said, oh, it's just part of the breed because he's a poodle cross a Pomeranian. And I was like, what? No, what do you want about? Crazy. So yeah, so it's become a big passion of mine to kind of and gait analysis, watching how the dog moves, looking at all the signs and making the owners aware. Even with dog walking clients, I do it because I see those dogs for an hour, sometimes twice a week. I see them move, I watch them, and I'm like pushing, and sometimes their vets say no, the dog's fine, so the owner thinks the dog's fine, and I'm like, there's still something wrong here. So I'm taking videos and showing them and things. So it can be really stressful knowing that all these dogs are hurting and not being able to help them. So that's why I eventually want to build the ladder and get to the side where I do clinical behavior so that I can really make a difference. But at the moment, it's just trying to work alongside vets. I often will get people to have their vets refer them to my physio because he's also a behaviorist and he is fantastic. And he's been brilliant with Lola. So if I can, I try to get them referred there for an assessment because he's brilliant at that as well. And noticing, and obviously they can't diagnose, but they can still treat it without it being diagnosed if he believes that it's that. So Lola's not officially diagnosed because she's had no x-ray, but we're very confident and I trust my physio that it is 100% hip dysplasia because I mean it's exact same as what Peggy was like. And now my puppy Stitch is also getting x-rays soon because I started noticing things in him. So I feel like I've got a hip dysplasia curse, but fingers crossed he's fine and I'm imagining it. But my record is pretty good, so I have a feeling I probably will be right. But at least we know now how to support it and treat it and make sure they're still happy and healthy.
What would your tips be for puppy owners, for instance? Because you mentioned Stitch, obviously, is only a pup. What would your tips be for puppy owners? Not necessarily to prevent hip dysplasia, because obviously that can be genetic, but things that you wouldn't recommend them doing or things that you would recommend them doing from a young age to try and prevent as much damage to sort of those joints as possible.
Yeah, so it can definitely be tricky because puppies are very bouncy and jumpy, especially toy poodles. They like to be up high, and if they're on the floor, they're going to do their best to get up high. So it's definitely a lot of management. If you can crate train, for rest times, if they're getting overexcited, having them in their crate to calm down and relax so they're not jumping all over the furniture is great. Um, uh, Steps and ladders to get on sofas and beds, even if you've got a big dog, teaching them to use the steps over jumping can help massively with reducing the impact on their joints as they're puppies. If you've got a house like mine that's got a ridiculous amount of stairs, then carrying them up and down if you can, which I did for most of the beginning with Stitch when he was really little. And then not over exercising. So a lot of people think puppies have got loads of energy. Let me take them to a field for an hour, run around and tire them out. But actually, all you're going to do is either make them overtired and then they're going to be a nightmare for you, or you're going to damage their joints. So making sure you're not doing a massive long walk. If you want to do lots of walking, then try to spread it out and do short but often. But ideally, really just one 30-minute walk is enough for a little puppy. And not even that, you could do 10 minutes around the block and they'll be fine and give them loads of enrichment at home to tire them instead. So they're
Mhm.
doing things that are low impact. And also things like if you want to get into agility or flyball or any crazy high energy impact sport like that, you shouldn't be doing that until at least a year old. But there are skills you can teach them as foundations if that is something you're interested in doing, that don't require jumping. Things like hoopers is great because that's a fun activity you can do together. It's similar to agility, but it's low impact. So they're not going to hurt their joints. But yeah, it is tricky because Stitch is very jumpy. So getting him to not jump is a challenge. And I can, even as a dog trainer, I can relate to dog owners that have the same issue because yeah, a puppy will be a puppy at the end of the day.
100% puppies will be puppies. The thing about it, Els, you said a little while ago, you want to make a difference. You are already making that difference. Yeah. And it's a huge difference. So, the world is your oyster. Yeah. I just want to ask you, when you are in your class setting, yeah, what do you find the most awkward, the puppies or the humans?
That's a good question. And I feel like you probably know the answer to that. But it is usually the people. I have had some experiences where I've had to say classes aren't right for you. And I sort of said not right for the dog, but actually it's the owner because they're just not listening, not doing the task, and just constantly complaining about the dog. And I'm like, let's deal with this on a one-to-one where I don't have three other people that I'm also working with. Or
Mhm.
I've had people who class isn't quite what they expected, and so they have not really been fully invested, because the class hasn't got an age limit. So although it's mostly puppies, I have had people with older dogs, but I explained that it's a basic class, it's a foundation, and I've had older dogs come that really should be doing the advanced class, but I hadn't started the advanced class at the time. So that can be a little bit awkward with the people, like, well, this is the activity, and I can make things a little bit more challenging, but the class is set as like a curriculum, so everyone's sort of doing the same thing. Obviously, we make adaptations for dogs, or because not every dog's the same, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. So yeah, it's the people can be interesting to work with, but I do enjoy that challenge and working with different kinds of people with different skill sets, people with different abilities. So my class venue is also wheelchair accessible, so I make sure that people with mobility issues can have different ways of training that works for them and their dog. So yeah, people can be difficult, but it's always fun.
Yeah, because you know what? We can't work with dogs and not want to work with people. We don't have a choice.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
don't have a choice. Elodie, you have got so many branches, the classes, the assistance dog thing, and everything else. If you had to write a book, okay, what one of those, all of those things that you actually do as a dog trainer now, which what would your book be based on? What one of those? Would it be
I
trick
think
training,
it would definitely,
classes?
oh, sorry.
No,
I think
carry
it
on.
would
You go.
definitely be on pain and behavior, because I think out of all the things that I do, that is the one that there's not enough education on for dog parents. There's a lot of it for dog trainers, for behaviorists, which is fab because we're the ones that then teach that to the owners. But I feel like a book that would be dog owner friendly, so easy for them to read and understand, would be the kind of thing that not many people I think have done, as far as I'm aware. But I'm not the best writer, so I don't know if I would, but you never know.
Well, everyone's heard this first. Elodie will be writing a book on pain and behaviour at some point. Elodie, it's been absolutely amazing having you on this morning. Um,
Thank you.
it's, it, you are a breath of fresh air to the industry. Yeah, you have a huge future in front of you, and boy, I'm not going to miss it because you are really, really good. So, can you tell people that are watching this, if, you know, how they can contact you if they want to take up one of your services? How can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Els K9 Coaching. Some of them have got some underscores and things, but if you just search Els K9 Coaching, it should come up. And then also on my Google profile, you can find my phone number and my website if you want to contact me directly.
Elodie, thank you very much. So please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the lovely content we put out, especially when we got the lovely Elodie Lawrence on board. So until the next time, it's bye from myself, Samantha, and Elodie. Bye for now until the next time.